Hello everybody, welcome back to From Rhythm to Algorithm part 115-ish, something like that. Anyway, picking up today exactly where we left off yesterday, we finished with our physical definitions, exploring how light cannot have momentum physically, not just me saying those words, but it's logically inconsistent. So we're trying to elicit a physical inconsistency that our axiom sensorality can resolve. Again, in dimensionless analysis, using definitive analysis outside of an equation sign, you have resolutions instead of solutions, and that should build well with, you build words, resolution, solution, so that should be also very consistent. But looking for our axiomatic definition, our one-way unique relationship of words to define and solidify sensorality as an axiom. So we finished last episode with the simple question of what is work? In any context, all context, blah, blah, blah. You go to work, you have a job, what are you doing? You're being productive, you're trying to be efficient, you're trying to produce output. A couple hodgepodge miscellaneous first that I want to, this is a little short little episode, we'll see, but just some miscellaneous stuff. And then we will arrive at a physical conundrum that you've already heard of, and we're going to try to resolve it, not in this episode, but just build the intuition towards the physical conundrum that needs resolved. But other forms of sorality, we have so, again we said sure and short, or that might be the ones I skipped over, but sure and short, those are two words that are forms of sorality, iterated, letters are added, short, the H is added, and right, short, sort. So again, just some more forms of sorality. Again, we have sensorality, sorality, orality. Orality is the base of sorality, sorality is the base of sensorality. So you have to deconstruct, work through all of the logic until you can get to the base of solidify. This word relates to that. Again, spreading out your logical basis, covering as many things, gathering as much evidence as you can to draw a new conclusion. But you just need to get to the basis to solidify the axiom. You don't need to go completely or comprehensively use sorality or sensorality in every context in which it would be used. But those are just other forms. We have kind of a dichotomistic pair that's directly related linguistically, but logically pretty much the opposite, or not the opposite, but just way different, that I thought was interesting. Grate, again relating to the axiom grate, like Grate, like a sewer grate or a rain grate, those little metal things that you put over on your curb to stop leaves from going in the gutters. And then grateful, right? Everyone, if you're grateful, you're appreciative of something, you're thankful. So great and then grateful. And so clearly the base is preserved in great, but that was just an interesting, you go from sensorality with a C to sensorality with an S, something that is just a physical object that performs some sort of mechanical filtration, and then an emotional state of thankfulness. And it's the same word, but with just a suffix on it. But then again, we talked about grate and integrate in the last episode. But so grate and integrate are logical opposites, right? If you integrate something, you're combining something. If you grate something, you're filtering it, you're censoring it. So integrate and grate are logical opposites linguistically. The letters that produce those words are demonstrably the same, with added prefix and suffix. Personality and sorality, we covered that one last episode. But just another word, psoriasis, that's super specific, again, some sort of disease of the skin, but psoriasis, right, Psoriasis, right, that sorality is the base of psoriasis. Super random, but super specific, but again, how is dark energy or dark matter going to predict that? And obviously it's not. If you're actually following what's going on, I mean, you know this is legitimate. I did want to say one other thing on P versus NP, but the colloquial presentation of the problem, so I'll get back to that if I can remember to. But segregation versus integration, right? We have a big historical evidence, right? In the 1960s, what's the natural opposite of integration? In our logical progression, we stopped at separation, right? You have separate and you have disparate. Those are two words that, logically and intuitively mean the same. Well, they're the same logical family, you can say, but right, separate If you separate, you distance them, and they're disparate, they're separated. So again, both linguistically and logically, those words are clearly related. But if the opposite of integration is separation, well, separation is segregation. And if you ask anyone from the 1960s in the United States of America, segregation was a thing. And so we see the collective consolidation and condensing, again, of logic, of forming minimalistic expressions by the species. I wasn't around in the 1960s. I didn't invent the word segregation. But the species came together and said, what describes this phenomenon? Segregation. That's the word they assigned to it. And so the opposite of integration is segregation. Segregation is equivalent or a form or more comprehensive or less comprehensive than separate. And so, because then again you would say, okay, what's the difference between segregation and separation? Right? Well, because of history, you have, the segregation more towards like a socioeconomic disparity, whereas in separation is just, there's not as much emotional historical input to the word. But logically and physically, they kind of mean the same thing, but the two different words exist. And so their existence means they mean different things, but it's nuanced. The context in which you would use them is slightly different. So those are the hodgepodge of things that I've missed over just from different episodes. But the historical proof of consolidating to segregation proves it's the opposite of integration.